And right there.
Go ahead and call
young
the meeting
lady.
to order. I'd ask that everybody go ahead and check your phones. Welcome.
Got mine. Yep, mine's on.
I'd like to ask if we could please get an invocation from Leon. Leon, if you don't mind, sir.
Our Father, our God, again, we come to say thanks, oh Heavenly Father, for the many blessings that you have thrown through this country over the weeks and the days, oh Heavenly Father. Continue to bless us and guide us in the right direction, oh Heavenly Father. Oh Heavenly Father, we ask you to look up under the ones who traveled this morning, oh Heavenly Father. And in this meeting today, we hope that we can all come to some kind of consensus, oh Heavenly Father, that we do things for the peoples of Bay County, oh Heavenly Father. Oh Heavenly Father, again, we just ask you for all your blessings in thy name, for Christ's sake, ever. Amen.
Amen. Join me in the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of the United States of
America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Angela, I understand you'll be the facilitator for today's meeting. Do we have anybody that wishes to speak in the public forum?
We do not.
Very well. All right. Are there any recommended changes to the agenda?
No deletions or
Well, in that case, we'll move on to our planning section and our consent agenda. I am looking for a motion for the consent agenda, please.
Motion to accept?
We have a motion to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Excellent. All right, we'll get right into our action items in a very busy schedule. All right, our first order of business today is the consideration of resolution Bay 2115. That's adopting the TPO 2022-2026 tip. And Gary? There he is. Hey, Gary, take it away.
All right, thank you, Mr. CAC members. Closure A is the fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program. The fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program was a review item in April and for action this month. The fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program is the end product of the cycle, which began with the TPO adoption of the fiscal year 22-26 project priorities last September, and FDOT presenting the tentative fiscal year 22-26 work program in January of this year. The fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program was posted in the link in your agenda enclosure on May 21st, 2021. The link was also emailed to the members of the TPO, PCC, and CAC by Mary Beth Washnock on May 21st, 2021. The comments received from the fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program begin on page 28 of the agenda enclosure and were addressed accordingly in the fiscal year 22-26 Transportation Improvement Program. Earlier today, the TCC recommended approval as presented. If you have any questions, I'll attempt to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you, Gary. Are there any questions for Gary at this time?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to authorize the TPO chairman to sign Resolution Bay 2115 to adopt the year 2022-2026 TIP.
Thank you, sir. We have a motion. We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Gary will stay with us now for consideration of Resolution Bay 2116. That's adopting the Bay 2023-2027 project priorities. Gary.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, CAC members. Closure B is the fiscal year 23-27 project priorities. I think we're missing some here. Brittany Ellers was going to go over the public involvement section for the project priorities.
Gary, we changed that. I'm not going to go over those this time.
Oh, okay, I thought it was just for the long range plan. We were, okay. Hearing that, then the project priorities are based on the cost feasible plan of the long range transportation plan. Once the project priorities are adopted, we'll send them on to FDOT to use as a guide to build their 5-year work program. The TPO's version of the FDOT 5-year work program, what's called the Transportation Improvement Program. The difference is that Transportation Improvement Program can also contain locally funded projects, not just state and federal funded projects. Also shows you how the projects may be implemented in the next 5 years.
Motion to approve, to authorize the TPO chairman to sign resolution Bay 2116 to adopt the fiscal year 2023 through 2027 project priorities with any changes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. With further discussion, I would add that if, Gary, if you'd go ahead and correct the resolution as it stands written for Chairman Henderson's signature, you'll note that it says now, therefore it be resolved by the Bay County Transportation Planning Organization that the TPO adopts the fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 202 project priorities. So if you make that one correction, please.
Yeah, glad you caught that.
Okay, any further discussion? We have a motion and a second. Yes.
There's a handout today for the 2023-27 non-cis project priorities. Were any of those changed, Gary?
We were going to go over some of that, but I think we decided not to present the comments. There was very little change. One was a spelling, I believe. Well, they do have them on here. Okay, the comments we received for on the March 29th TPO, TCC, and CEC workshop. Table 1, the non-SIS priority 5, 7, and 8. These were recommended to go on the CIS list, but in order to go on the CIS, they need to be on the SIS cost feasible plan. Currently, they are not, so we're recommended to stay on the non-CIS priorities. One change that was made, or going to be made, Table 3, TSM Priority 1, operation and maintenance of the current ITS system. That should be 600,000 instead of 500,000. That change will be made. I know we have some other ones here. We also had a TPO, TCC, and CEC workshop on May 24th. They talked about the non-SIS priority number 4, State Road 22, Weewell Highway from Tyndall to Star. As mentioned, most of the right-of-way could occur within existing right-of-way, but there's be right-of-way for retention ponds, but FDOT has indicated there'd be more than additional right-of-way other than the retention ponds. So we included the amount of 20 million for right-of-way in our long-range plan for State Road 22. This change will be made. Table 1, non-SS priority, fully funded, Lynn Haven Rails to Trails. We misspelled the word east, so that will be corrected. Then Table 3, there was a discussion at the TPO meeting in April about the TSM priority fully funded project, US 231 from Titus to Star Avenue. They wanted an update on that. The update is in the priority list. So there's no changes needed for that one. So just those two changes will be what's going to be changed.
Thank you, Gary. Any further discussion, comment?
What was that correction you made?
It was just on a number, adding the number 7. That's 20, said 202, and then there was nothing else.
Okay, 2027.
Yes, that's correct. We have a motion.
Chairman.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, like sign? Thank you. All right. It may not say all committees, but enclosure C is indeed for our consideration as well. Resolution Bay 2117. There'll be quite a bit of discussion on this, I'm sure. The 2045 long range cost feasible plan. Gary, take it away.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Enclosure C is the 2045 long-range transportation plan, the cost feasible plan. The 2040 long-range plan was adopted on June 22nd, 2016, in order to maintain the 5-year requirement between long-range dates. The 2045 long-range plan needs to be adopted by June 22nd, 2021. The TPO approved the scope of services for the 2045 long-range plan on July 24th, 2019. There are 6 major tasks for the long-range plan and the scope of services. The first 5 tasks that goes on objectives, evaluation criteria, and financial resources, performance measures, congestion management, needs plan have already been approved by resolution by the TPO. This brings us to the final task, development of the 2045 long-range plan, which is the cost feasible plan. The methodology for the cost feasible plan reduced the 2045 needs plan to 2045 cost feasible plan. Projects in the 2040 cost feasible plan but are not in the 2045 cost feasible plan can be found on pages 91 and 92 of the agenda enclosure. It shows the reasons why those projects are no longer in the 2045 long range plan. The financial resources guide begins on page 41 of the agenda enclosure. We had 3 steering committees for the development of the cost feasible plan. Summary of those meetings are on pages 46 to 77 of the agenda enclosure. And then the public participation we've done is on page 45 of the agenda enclosure. We have an existing committed network, 2015 to 2024. Those projects are either completed or under construction, but are not part of the 2045 long plan. You can go on page 42 of the agenda enclosure if you want to see the projects in the existing plus committed network. The funding sources are primarily 3 funding sources for the cost feasible plan. The Transportation Improvement Program and local funded projects from years 2020 to 2025. In pages 78 to 83 of the agenda enclosure include those projects. The second funding source is the strategic intermodal system that are the major roadways in the area, such as US 98 and 231 and 390. Those are for the years 2026 to 2045. You can look at those projects on pages 84 to 88 of the agenda enclosure. The last funding source is the non-strategic intermodal system. Those projects are listed on pages 89 to 90 of the agenda enclosure and for the years 2026 to 2045. So tip and local projects. There's a map on page 78 of the agenda enclosure, and I'll go over those projects in just a minute. Those funding sources are the TIP, local funded projects for Bay County, and Panama Beach CRP projects. Those projects are in pages 79 to 83 of the agenda enclosure. This is the map. You should have maps in the room for the 3 funding sources as well for the cost feasible plan. They're on easels in the room. On the bottom left is Panama City Beach Parkway from Walton County line and State Road 79. There's also another portion of Panama City Beach Parkway that's funded. Some of the CRA projects on Front Beach Road. On the top, you can see State Road 20 has a PD&E that's funded. In the middle center towards the bottom, 23rd Street from US 98 to State Road 390 and some of the 390 projects. There's also a local Jinx funded project as well, as you can see, as well as the Titus Road connector. 231 from 98 up to Penny is partially funded in the TIP. Also East Avenue from the port entrance all the way up by Baldwin Road. There's Gulf Coast Parkway from Tyndall Parkway to Star Avenue, and then the Hathaway Bridge replacement as well, or not the Hathaway, the DuPont Bridge replacement. SIS projects 26 to 2045. Map and spreadsheet are on pages 84 to 88 of the agenda enclosure. Once the FDOT updates the SIS cost feasible plan, we may amend the long range plan if there are any changes. However, as mentioned earlier, we cannot just place SIS projects in the cost feasible plan. FDOT maintains the SIS cost feasible plan. This is the link where you can review the SIS cost feasible plan on FDOT's website. This is the strategic intermodal system projects. On the slides after this, I'll go over which projects are fully funded and which projects are partially funded. The SIS projects that are fully funded in the 2045 cost feasible plan. 23rd Street from US 98 to State Road 390. US 98 from Mandy to Nautilus. US 98 Mandy to Nautilus. US 98 Walton County line to State Road 79. US 231 and transmitter intersection improvement. And State Road 390 Mill Bayou Bridge replacement. Partially funded projects on the SIS for the 2045 cost feasible plan. Transmitter from US 98 to C Street. US 231 from US 98 to Penny. US 98 or Nautilus to Richard Jackson, and US 98 Richard Jackson to Hathaway Bridge. East Avenue from the port entrance to Sherman. Then US 98 from Transmitter to Tyndall Air Force Base. The non-strategic intermodal system projects for 26 to 2045. We have a map in the spreadsheet, pages 89 to 90 of the agenda enclosure. The TPO has the most control over these projects. Initially, we presented 3 scenarios to the steering committee: project priorities, evaluation criteria, and multimodal. Ultimately, the steering committee developed the one hybrid scenario that we're presenting to you today for the non-SIS. This is a map of the hybrid scenario for the non-SIS for the 2045 cost feasible plan. The non-SIS fully funded projects for 2045. We have several BOTS funds. Intelligent Transportation System, $600,000 per year. Corridor Management, Complete Streets. We have studies for $150,000 per year. Then implementation of corridor management, Complete Streets at $500,000 per year. Public transportation, BOTS funds, $350,000 per year. BOTS funds for bicycle pedestrian projects, $350,000 per year. And the regional trails, BOTS funds at $150,000. The non-SIS fully funded projects continued. State Road 22, Weewa Highway from US 98 to Star Avenue. East Avenue from Baldwin to 390. We have an elevated pedestrian structure, US 98 and North Pier Park Drive. Then a roundabout at Harrison and Sitt Street. Partially funded projects on the non-SIS. 390 from 77 to 231. US 98 at the Thomas Drive intersection. Transmitter from US 98 to C Street. Star Avenue from State Road 22 to US 231. Gulf to Bay Parkway from County Road 386 in Mexico Beach is south of Tyndall Air Force Base. Bay Parkway Phase 3 from Clara to Chip Seal. And an elevated roadway that's the US 98 from Clara to Nautilus. These are the comments. I know Mary Beth had requested I not go over these in detail. They are in your agenda enclosure, and hopefully you read those comments. We keep going. One more. This is where you can review the draft cost feasible plan. Mary Beth sent an email out earlier this month, and hopefully you received it and reviewed the draft cost feasible plan ahead of time. It is on this link, and it's in your agenda enclosure. Recommendation, there are 3 recommendations for the cost feasible plan. Approve the cost feasible plan resolution, then devise the following timeframes that are listed so we can convert the cost feasible plan to year of expenditure dollars. Then another motion that all the 2-year process and all the resolutions that we approved from the beginning to the end right now, that comprise our final report. We'll summarize each of those documents in the final report. The TCC met earlier today and recommended approval as presented. If you have any comments or questions, I'll be more than happy to answer them.
I'll start off if you don't mind.
Okay.
First of all, I'd like to recognize all those that are on this committee and pretty much everyone else from the other committees and working folks from the planning council that attended all the steering committee meetings. There was some really good work that was done there and some very substantive changes that came out of that. There is a portion in this briefing and in the documents where it did say that you would present the hybrid options at this meeting. I didn't see that where that is in the agenda.
Yeah, we presented it the last meeting, and that's what ultimately became the hybrid number 4.
Okay. And finally, I noticed that we did have 3 pedestrian walkovers that were planned in the cost feasible plan. One was at Powell Adams, one was at Pier Park, and one was at Nautilus. And I noticed that both Nautilus and Powell Adams were removed. Is that correct?
They are in the needs plan. The steering committee recommended that the one at Pier Park was the highest priority, so that's why it was chosen.
Okay, so there's not any real partial funding then for that particular crossing, for those 2 other crossings. I only bring that up because we can 6-lane 98 tomorrow, and without those pedestrian crossings at Powell Adams and Nautilus, you have to take, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bryant would be able to address this. Once that pedestrian hits that button and he gets the walk light, it's designed for folks that are not necessarily able walkers. It stops traffic. I mean, stops it cold. And you can have 6 lanes, 10 lanes, whatever you want. You stop it and you stopped it, and it'll back up till the Hathaway Bridge. So unless we get those pedestrian walkovers done at those places, and Nautilus is, along with Pier Park, Nautilus is probably the worst. You're not going to solve the problems with widening the road. So I think a lot of attention needs to be given to that.
Refocused.
Yeah, at least a refocusing on that.
And Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
when Panama City Beach Parkway is widened from the 6 lanes, maybe that can be part of the design process of when that project's out for the design right away in construction. Maybe Brian can add to that.
Yeah, if that can be included in it as part of that, then that's terrific. Right now, PD&E is not completed, right, Brian, on that?
Yes, that segment has a completed PD&E.
It has a completed PD&E, but it doesn't have those walkovers as part of it, does it?
I'm sure it was considered in the PD&E document, but normally those type of improvements come as part of the design analysis because we do struggle with enforcement on those. So if you want people to use pedestrian overpasses, we're going to have to put up some type of physical barrier because, if it's at an intersection, we have to keep an at-grade signalization system available. And so, again, it's always safer to do the pedestrian walkover, but enforcement will always be an issue if somebody can walk straight across the road. So we try to handle that during the design phase to ensure we address it appropriately.
I just asked that we make a note of that because that's, I think, essential. John, you had a question or comment?
Yeah, Gary, we lost, and probably Brian Paul can be part of this answer. We lost $1 billion to the state of Florida revenue or FDOT 3.
State of Florida, it was statewide.
So how much did that impact your finagling the numbers and things like this walkover at Nautilus and Pier Park, Gary?
We used the FDOT revenue projections, which were provided by FDOT. They, I believe, meet about 4 times a year to develop those projections. It wasn't accounted for, but I think in a couple of years, you see where the revenue probably will be up to what it was, hopefully. I know Brian has indicated those projects that were removed from the work program are high priority projects to be put back in as well. But he might want to add more to that than that.
In order to get all the MPOs, the revenue estimates, in time enough to produce their plans, that estimate was provided probably 2 years ago. So it does not include the impacts of the COVID. So what will happen, Gary's plan, didn't include that because it looks 20 years out. Our 5-year work program definitely included that. So as Gary indicated, over time, that within the next 5 years, he has to update the plan again. That blip will be in there, but hopefully we've overcome it at that point in time.
Well, I guess I'm looking a little forward myself as well. It was $1 billion this year. What if it's $2 billion next year?
Well, it shouldn't be. I mean,
No, it shouldn't.
as long as we don't have a relapse or a situation where we have to go back into a lockdown, our revenue projections are pretty solid for the coming years. What we do hope that impact that will be stimulus funds at both the federal and state level that will help us not only get back to where we were, but maybe get ahead on some of these projects. The Back Beach Road projects are a prime candidate to really move forward if we get some stimulus dollars.
Well, I guess my goal was not to politicize this, but I wasn't sure how much the $1 billion was a punishment to the state of Florida.
No, that was strictly a loss of gas tax revenues.
Okay, thank you.
And Gary, the only reason I asked about the clarification of the hybrid option is if you take a look at page 77 from the 12 May steering committee.
This way by computer.
Larry had asked about when the hybrid option would be made available to the public, and you clarified that it would be presented to the TPO and the committees in June.
And that's what we did. We presented the hybrid.
Okay. And
Mailed it out to, I believe, on June 7th to everybody. It's on our-
okay. And it still says that you need guidance on the non-SIS hybrid scenario costs and funding sources for the Bay Parkway 3, only partially funded in the hybrid scenario. And it talks about the elevated segment is only partially funded in the hybrid scenario. What guidance do you need from us?
That was, I think you're referring to the steering committee minutes. And we did get that guidance at the last steering committee meeting from them.
Okay, I only asked that because these comments are from the last steering committee. The last one you had was 12 May, correct?
Yeah, and they did address those. We met and then we called Kelly and he's the one-on-one and made sure they were okay with everything that's in there.
Okay, as long as you don't need anything else from us. It looks like you're doing the best you can with what monies you've got.
Okay, appreciate it.
Yes, I got it.
Yes, Leon.
Gary, I understand, maybe I'm wrong, but 2045, you mentioned that, is that part of 390, from 77 to 231?
That project is in the non-SIS cost feasible plan is partially funded. The construction phase is not funded. There's a lot of money for the construction on that. And with the limited revenue we have for the non-SIS, we couldn't afford it, but hopefully beyond the SIS, when the FDOT updates the SIS cost feasible plan, when they do, we can amend the long range plan and hopefully fully fund that project.
What I understand now, you're saying be 2045 before we can get to that point.
Gary,
This is saying it's beyond 2045 because it's not fully funded. But hopefully it's beyond the SIS before then. I think Brian wanted to add to that.
Yeah, Brian wants to add to it.
right now, that section of 390 is not included in the SIS plan, the Strategic Intermodal System Plan. That plan was scheduled to be updated this past year, but with the COVID impacts on revenue, it was just prudent to put that off a year for us to get back on track. The reason it's not fully funded in your revenue for this area is because we anticipate it being funded through the Strategic Intermodal System or SIS funds. It's just we've got to work it through the process. And no, sir, we do not anticipate it taking till 2045. We're going to push very hard to get that one funded as quickly as possible. Can't guarantee you anything, but it's going to be a lot closer to current year than it is to 2045 when that project gets funded.
That means that I noticed a lot of stoppers working on that section of that street right now. That's why, because of the fund shortage?
This is what's happening out there is just a resurfacing of the existing roadway.
And they were replacing the bridge out there too. The Mill Bayou Bridge.
Yeah, we're just going to resurface from 77 to 231 now, and then as we move forward, we'll acquire the right of way and construct the full.
Okay, I think at the last meeting, I said this gentleman from Tallahassee is to put in about 800 apartments and condos there, right off of 390. Right off of 390. And that's going to be the only outlet there. And then we got the school coming in now. We got a lot of apartments coming in on 390. Because I think 390 been just pushed back.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
to elaborate on or to comment on what Leon has mentioned. Last Thursday, I rode up 390, of which during the school year, I go every day. There were 5 pieces of equipment that required an operator. Nobody was on any of them. They were not moving. This morning, I went up there at 10:30. There were 13 pieces of equipment. 11 of them were sitting still, had no operator nearby, no people. What's the holdup on that between 23rd and Baldwin?
Well, we're resurfacing that whole entire segment. And when we issue the contract to the contractor, we give him X number of days to complete the project. We're not out there telling him he has to work every day. He has multiple contracts in our area. So I'm sure he's having to disperse his manpower just like everybody else. They're having a hard time keeping their work crews fully staffed. So you have to.
At this point, is it on schedule?
Well, it's just begun, so we don't have an opportunity to say they're going to make their date or not this early in the process.
Okay.
When is that portion, at least the portion that's supposed to at least get to 77? When's that scheduled for completion?
The resurfacing?
Not the resurfacing.
Okay. That was the funding that got removed in this last work program cycle.
The part that's under construction right now.
You're talking about segments going back to the.
I think you're referring to what's already been partially done.
Yes.
And there's nothing, you don't see any work going on.
You're not talking about you're not talking 77, 231.
No.
You're talking
No.
70.
Talking 23rd.
23rd Street.
Talking 23rd.
Right.
Okay. The same situation. In fact, I believe it's the same contractor. It's become a staffing issue. That project is running behind. They're within the contract time, but they are running behind on that. However, You know, until that time runs out, we cannot, you know, utilize the methodologies to retain funds from them. So
What's the original completion date?
I don't have that with me at this point in time.
You could give us an idea of that in our next meeting. That'd be helpful just to go.
Did you say, a while back, did you say that was a hunk of money set aside for 390, but you're waiting to get some more money to add on to that?
And we're talking 390, which section?
You talking from 77?
From 77 to 31.
Okay, that one, we had design funded, but with the revenue reductions, that design money went away. What we're hoping for is stimulus dollars at either the state and or federal level to not only replace the design money, but maybe even start some right-of-way acquisition along that corridor.
And it'll help when they eventually make it from non-cis to cis. That's going to be probably within the year.
We would anticipate the plan be updated within the year. That would then be reflected in your respective priorities for the next work program cycle.
Any other questions before I ask for a motion? Do you want three separate motions, Angela, or just one approval as
Purple as
presented? Okay, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion to approve as presented.
We have a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll go to enclosure D. That's chairman and vice chairman selection. I see that the TPO already did theirs at their last meeting.
Yes.
They weren't even going to have a nominating committee. I think Mr. Lincoln, you were also on that. You want to,
As chairman of the nominating committee, I met with the other two members.
And they were Bretlow and Atkins.
Yes. And subsequently, I met with Ally Froelich and Dr. Guy York. The recommendations of the committee are that Ally Froelich serves another 2 years. And the candidate for vice chair would be Jim Pretlow, for serve for 2 years.
Okay, so, and that starts July 1, 2021.
Affirmative.
Okay.
I am proud and willing to serve. Jim, yourself?
You know, I was on this committee when it started, you know, I'm looking for a pension at the end of it.
I think that is the yes.
Strike that from the minutes, please.
We need a motion.
All right, I'd ask for a motion.
So move.
There's a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you. Proudly willing to continue serving you, my fellow committee members.
Thank you.
All right, the favorite part of the meeting, our FDOT update. We've already been pinging him.
Well, and I actually found a sheet here that will address your concern about when the final acceptance for the segment of 390, State Road 77 to Jinx, November 11th, 2022.
Say that again?
Wow.
We'll never get there.
November 11th, 2022. That was originally a 1,325-day contract. They've added some weather days, some holiday time, and now it's a 1,500-day contract.
All right. Do you have any information from Jenks to
23rd?
Jenks on?
Baldwin to Jinx. State Road 390, Baldwin to Jinx. Anticipated final acceptance, September of 2021. That one has had a significant amount of supplemental agreements and work orders that has adjusted the time on that. So that one may slide, but we anticipate.
There's no way they're getting.
You got that right.
But you can put the fire to them once that comes up, right?
Yes, yeah, we have mechanisms in place once they exceed our contract time.
Okay, sir, go ahead.
Department's got just a couple of items to update this committee on today. The first one being a public meeting. It actually is scheduled out in September, but since the TPO does not meet again until October, we wanted to give you a heads up at this meeting. It's for the 231 capacity project from 15th Street North to Pipeline Road. We'll be having a public hearing on Thursday, September 30th, from 5:30 to 6 at the Highland Park Baptist Church Fellowship Hall on 231. This will be both a physical location. We will also have a hybrid option. So you will have the ability to view it virtually and attend in that manner. Also, the 1st of September, we will be sending out notifications to all elected officials, stakeholders, and citizens along the corridor. TPO will receive that notification, and I'm sure we'll forward to this committee, make you aware of it a little closer to time. The other issue was the resurfacing project on Panama City Beach Parkway. Initially, I think that one was scheduled to let in March. That got pushed out to May. It was let at the end of last month on the 26th. Anderson Columbia got that job. It's a $20 million contract, and we anticipate work to begin September of this year.
When's completion?
I don't have that information at this point in time.
And it is from where to where?
It is from the Walton County line to Heather Drive. This is the one that's got a significant amount of added sidewalk, plus the multi-use path on the south side of the road. So in addition to the resurfacing, we'll be providing a lot of pedestrian opportunities.
What's Heather Drive? What's the closest?
It's right before you get to 79.
Right before you get to 79. Okay.
As part of that, are they going to fix that turn lane that goes into the last street?
Into which street?
I don't know if that's Heather Drive is the last street on the right-hand side going west, where the road puts everybody in the middle and they're trying to turn to go right.
I'm not sure, because I'm not really following what you're saying.
Well, there's 3 lanes.
If you're going westbound, okay.
Westbound, you got 3 lanes. One's moving into the 2 lanes.
Okay,
And it stops before you get to the last street. And people are trying to turn onto the last street. There's like 4 or 5 streets there.
I'm not sure. There was some right-of-way acquisition for this, so it could be a case where they acquired enough right-of-way to extend that merge lane. I can check the plans and let you know.
That'd be great.
What's our status on Malfunction Junction?
I mean, that's part of that public meeting that I referenced. That'll be discussed at that meeting. We have just, met with the city on numerous occasions, and we, looked at some of the options they brought forward. We decided to make some modifications to our plans that would accommodate some of their needs, but we're going to proceed on with the initial improvements at that area. But I would defer to the September meeting to find out the exact details of that.
And it's heartening to see that the West Bay Parkway, at least on the 2045 long-range plan, we've got PD&E money for Walton County to 77 or 79. So by Margaritaville there. And I take it that PD&E will also include the bridge in Walton County that'll have to go over the intercoastal?
Yes, that will include that. That, as we spoke just a moment ago, the West Bay Parkway and the Gulf Coast Parkway will be kind of the next major corridors for the TPO to start considering. These are both new alignments, new roadways, very expensive. And so that'll be one of the next decisions this body has to look at. Where do we want to focus our revenue? Do we want to work on the western side of the county or the eastern side of the county? So
I saw that there was an adjustment on Bay Parkway Phase 3 for right-of-way acquisition because the land was being donated by the St. Joe Company. And I also saw that the projected right-of-way money for that long stretch from Walton 79 is not that much at all, because I understand that the St. Joe Company is committed to donating that property as well. So that's a huge savings, even though I believe that the entire project probably costs upwards of $250 million, something like that. I mean, just a.
It depends on who builds it.
Right. Because I know
If DOT built it, yes. If our local governments handle that construction, it could be cheaper.
because the PD&E itself is like 3.7 million, correct?
I don't know that it's going to be that expensive. That's a pretty conservative estimate. I would hope it would come in a little less than that, but we'll just have to see.
Yeah, if we could, and the phase 3, the PD&E has been approved for the Bay Parkway phase 3, right? From Clara to Chip Seal.
That was, as I understand it, that was funded through this last legislative session.
Yes.
I'm not aware of the governor vetoing that particular line item, so it should come to the department as part of the legislative
There's
package.
no construction money.
Correct.
All right. If we could get a briefing on, at our next meeting, on how that West Bay Parkway is looking and how the rest of the Gulf Coast Parkway is looking, just whatever update you can.
I can give you that update now because it's pretty simple. West Bay Parkway, we've got a PD&E study complete and on the shelf. So we're looking for design funds for those segments. It's been segmented into 3 individual pieces that carry you from 98 at the edge of the Walton County line up to 79 in the vicinity of the new State Road 388 realignment.
Right, so you can go straight across, right by Margaritaville,
Mhm.
straight across.
Yes. In fact, that development will probably end up constructing a portion of that road as an entrance to their development.
Excellent. All right.
Does the PD&E include a flyover of Colony Club?
The PD&E will be handled by Bay County.
But that,
I'm on the record.
right, but that is, he's talking about the connector.
Yeah.
This is different than phase 3. So there's the elevated, I think that, let me get the terminology right here. They call it an elevated section.
Well, Bay County's taking the lead on that, so I definitely don't want to speak for them, but I think, the phase 3 will account for the realignment around Colony Club.
Because they have phase 3, which is separate, and then it says US 98 Panama City Beach Parkway elevated segment, which will connect Panama City Beach Parkway phase 2 and phase 3. And then when you look at the maps, it doesn't have it kind of following along 98. It has it on the back side of Colony Club, or maybe probably the area of least resistance over Colony Club. But the important thing is there's no eminent domain going to be done except for maybe a few portions where you're going to put some pilings in to support the flyover part of that. But that PD&E is going to be something that everybody's going to really want to see. I think everybody's going to be very interested in it. And again, I would hope that they would also consider just maybe a mini flyover that takes it from Nautilus onto 98, and then another mini flyover that when you're headed eastbound takes it from Clara over 98 onto Clara. So you can eliminate that whole big stretch of going over Colony Club and just keep traffic flowing. It's just going to have to make a little bit of a U-turn, and all that traffic that is proceeding eastbound will never have to stop. It'll just continue on. And then for the westbound traffic, all you got to do is come off of Clara, give it a dedicated lane that it can stay on and go right around and make a U-turn, because it's only 3/4 of a mile. A U-turn right around the Holiday Gulf and right back into Nautilus. And you're set. That's a layman's engineering solution to that. All right, any other questions?
Yeah, one.
Okay, go ahead, Leon.
On this 231 meeting, September the 6th at the church, it's going to be, your plan going to be laying out what's 231 going to look like down in the future?
I said the 6th. I apologize. It's September 30th.
September the 30th?
Correct. We'll be putting forth our final design plans for the citizens and stakeholders to see at that point in time. So you'll be able to see the opportunity of what, or have the opportunity to see what we're doing at Malfunction Junction, what we're doing at 23rd Street, all along the corridor.
Okay, because 231 here in the last month or so, it's been a death trap up there. 2 or 3 people's gotten killed because the traffic's so fast up there now. That's the major highway in and out of Panama City.
Quick request.
Okay.
There a possibility of, just like we do at Chip Seal, we give a yellow flashing turn signal to turn, when you're headed westbound, to turn southbound on whatever the road is on the other side of Chip Seal. You get a yellow flasher when the other ones are green.
The yellow arrow?
Yes, yellow arrow. Can we please consider doing that going to the airport? The other day on 77, I'm headed northbound on 77 and about ready to make a left-hand turn on 388. There is absolutely no traffic coming from the north to the south on 77. And we were piled up and sat because it wasn't a flashing yellow arrow to turn left onto 388. It was a red arrow. And we all dutifully sat at the red light with no traffic anywhere in sight. Can we please consider doing a flashing yellow light?
Yes.
If there's not a sight distance issue there, that's something our engineers would determine, and then we coordinate with Bay County on getting something like that installed.
All right, if you could make that as a request, please. Yes.
You're obligated as a driver to look around and see if there's a police car sitting at the 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
Ask, on 231 and Star, that intersection, is anything going to be done with that?
Yes, we've got a project coming, a near-term project that's coming there to not fully realign that, but it's going to make some safety improvements at that location.
That's horrible.
That's horrible.
It replaces.
and that's right around the area where that Gulf Coast Parkway is popping out too.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're building more houses out in there and everything backs up for miles. Especially if you have a ball game or something like that, there's only 2 exits. Third, if you know your way around, but somebody's gonna get, more people are gonna be killed, I think. There has been some deaths there.
Okay,
Traffic coming from 4 different directions, it's just, or 5 maybe.
all right, and one more, and y'all don't look at me bad, but I wasn't a bad boy. I followed the traffic signalations and all that. I utilized that phase 2 the other day, coming back from the airport. Absolutely love it. There was nothing but, if anybody uses Waze or any other kind of mapping device with, traffic, it was solid red all the way from 79 to Beckridge. What's the new name of that road? R. Jackson Boulevard.
R. Jackson by God Boulevard.
So I come up and I can see it is solid red all the way to Nautilus to the intersection. So as I come around, I notice some fellow Wazers turning left. In other words, they're turning east into, guess where? Colony Club.
Colony Club.
They're going through, winding through Colony Club. Now, it probably saved me 30 minutes to do that, especially because I did a little trick that saved me a lot of trouble, but I think we need to address it, and I don't know how the Colony Club people would feel about this. When you come out of Colony Club, you're looking at traffic on Back Beach Road, 98, that is either hauling the speed of stink or it's a parking lot.
Standing still.
And people are trying to get across 98 from Colony Club, like I was, and head towards Hathaway. That's a suicide job, because if someone stops and gives you that right of way and the outbound left lane doesn't,
Yes.
and you come across and you can't see that traffic because it's solid bumper to bumper. So you can't see through all those cars that are on the right lane, the slow lane, we'll say. So driver number 2 over here on the right lane gives you access to come across. You start coming across and this guy on the left side's been waiting for 30 minutes to move and he steps on it like maybe I might if I were there, and wham, there you go. And I know we've asked in a lot of cases to close off some of those intersections where guys can't come over and go left. Now I know, because I drive it all the time, that if I just go a half a block up and just turn right there, there is a dedicated U-turn. It's a dedicated picketed white picket to get in. You got to get into the left lane now and make that U-turn to go south. And people there, for some reason, always let folks in. I mean, they do on that U-turn because they know it's a dedicated U-turn. And I know we've talked about Allison.
Yes, we
Close that
have.
off coming out of Allison. You know, people come across 98 on Allison to go west and they get whacked all the time, or they're all stacked up there in the middle. And then people that are actually have the legitimate right to make that turn off of 98 south into Allison can't do it because everybody's either piled up there.
Yep.
So what I would ask that we consider, so we save some lives, is when you come out of Colony Club, let's make it convenient for people to get out of there, go up, switch over and get to that U-turn so that they can head east rather than trying to do the suicide shot straight across and getting waxed. Just a thought. I mean, I've seen it. I mean, I even did it before Nautilus was done. I'd do it coming on Pier Park, where I'd go back through, what's the name of that St. Joe place on the north side there? And you'd come out right at the traffic light there.
Right.
Right through, it's just before you get to Pier Park North on the.
Palmetto Trace?
Palmetto Trace. And it's almost the same kind of thing. You go through the residential community, I'm sure they don't appreciate it, but at least there's a light there that allows you to turn left and go eastbound. For the folks at Colony Club, I'm not advocating we put a light there by any means. Oh my God, that would be disastrous. But we gotta fix that. Don't allow people like me to try and do something stupid and shoot across and go eastbound. Yes, John.
That brings up another subject. The signs that you have painted on the road, 98, that is really nice, okay, on the bridge. Is there any opportunity for you to mark the roadway at, particularly when you're coming, people are coming in, tourists, okay, are coming in and they, westbound, and they come across Thomas Drive intersection, and then there's one that goes to the left, okay, to the beach. And if you could clearly mark 98 is on the back beach road, that would help. And arrows, big arrows. And I think one of the things that he's talking about is that if you put arrows at Allison, right turn only arrow, that's it. And you did that at Colony Club, that's it. Maybe that would help out.
Well, our current design standards really don't give us an opportunity to use the asphalt paintings in every location. But I'm sure as the success of the places we are using it demonstrate safety improvement, we'll get the opportunity to start using it more and more places. But right now, we're very limited as to where that can be applied. But hopefully it will expand.
Just a suggestion.
Yes, ma'am, you want us to keep moving?
Yes, please. We have a couple more presentations.
I understand. I apologize.
That's okay.
I digress a little bit, but that very
We
important.
get so little, we get so little to pick on Brian.
Yeah, I'm just making up for the
3 months.
short meeting from last time. Okay, very, well. Anything else of critical or that we can catch him after the meeting? All right, thank you very much. You're very gracious with your time. All right, we don't have any action required on the enclosures for public participation, or do we have an update on public participation update from staff?
We do. We have a planning presentation for item G,
Okay,
and that will be Brittany Ellers.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the CAC. Before you today is a major draft update to the public participation plan for the Bay County TPO. Just a quick overview. The public participation plan is basically the guiding document that helps us determine how we are going to reach out to the community. It outlines the strategies we use, the products that we will be reaching out to the community about, and how we assess those strategies. Before you today are a couple of changes, the first of which was initiated by our federal and state funding partners, FDOT and Federal Highway. We added a continuity of operations process section into the document And this is just a result of COVID-19. A lot of us kind of were thrown off by a global pandemic that we hadn't participated in before and hopefully won't have to again. So we just added some measures into our public participation plan that kind of address what we'll do should we encounter that issue again. And we also address some natural disaster issues as well. The other update from our federal and state partners is about disproportionate impacts with our LRTP process. So we added a little bit of clarifying language in that section of the document. And then we also added some more graphics just to make it a little more visually stimulating. So that way people can kind of grasp all of these large, huge plans that we are developing. So the draft is available until August 6th, Friday, August 6th. Today we are launching the 45-day comment and review period. So if you could provide any comments by August 6th, that way we can ensure that they're included in the approval process for October. If there are no questions or concerns, I will go back into hiding.
Thank you, Brittany. Does anybody have any questions of Brittany? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Return to your regularly scheduled program. All right, very well. Now we will move to our transit issues and we'll get into enclosure G, consideration of resolution 2119. That's to execute a contract with Florida State University Board of Trustees for the provision of a deviated fixed route transit service for an initial term, August 22, 2021 to December 12, 20. And again, we had a minor little glitch there. We're missing a number. I don't know whether that's 2022, but we'll find out real quick. Who's going to brief that? Is Lamar going to brief that? Or?
Lamar Hops.
It is,
Got it?
yes, sir. It is December 12th, 2021.
Okay, so just the year. Okay, I apologize. I knew that.
It's actually going to just be for the fall semester. Essentially, Florida State University, Panama City approached us. As you probably know, they're in the process of finalizing the construction of what they call Knoll Landings, which is basically a 380, I believe, 5-room residential facility there, which will make Panama City campus a 24-hour campus. And to meet the need there, they need public transportation to help provide assistance to those students that will be coming without transportation, if you will. And so they approached us, asked us if we would be willing to partner with them. We, of course, told them we would. And we don't have any real data to pull from because we've never provided transportation for a university or college such as this. So we just basically had to look at the data from other surrounding schools and that type of thing to figure out what the ridership was going to be and that type of thing. And so based on the information that we had available to us, we've proposed to charge them somewhere in the neighborhood of around $14,000 to provide public transit service to their students during this first fall term. After we do that, then we'll have the data that we can go back and look at and tighten up on the cost associated with providing that service after we run this first semester. The good thing about this is this proposal really is not costing the transit system anything. We already provide service there on Collegiate Drive. We pick up and drop off there, which is simply what they need. They will be providing their students with ID cards like they do now. Those ID cards will be read by our fare boxes, and they'll be allowed access to any of our fixed route buses during this time frame, and for free rides. And then FSU in turn will compensate us for those rides. Based on that, like I say, it's not costing us anything. We're simply filling empty seats with buses that we already have there. So it's win-win for us, and something I think will be beneficial for the system and help establish hopefully a long partnership with them going forward.
Fantastic.
I think so too.
Any questions or comments? All right, looking for a motion, please.
Motion.
We have a motion to approve. Second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, like sign? Thank you. We don't have a real transit update per se. Would you like to give us just a real quick overview, how things are going? How's ridership? How's the fare box? How are we looking as far as what's projected and what's actually being experienced?
Well, there's a couple things I wanted to mention in relation to the FSU situation. Obviously, that's new business for us. So we're excited about that because that's added revenue that we didn't have projected, in our budget. One of the other things I wanted to mention there is, as you know, Perry and Young advertises extensively on our buses. And literally they've said they would take every bus that we could get them if we could provide it to them. So in trying to embrace this partnership with FSU, we went to them and said, would you consider sponsoring an FSU route bus? And they said, absolutely, it would be an honor to do that. So they're actually going to come up front the money to have one of the buses that they currently advertise on reroute with the FSU information on it, and to celebrate that partnership and also generate some publicity in the community about what we're doing. And so we're really excited about that and really appreciate their partnership with that. They are our largest customer in terms of people that advertise on our buses. They have 8 buses that they advertise on right now. So it's their presence is really appreciated in terms of that. The other things that I wanted to brief you on is we are in the process, as I told you last time, of changing uniforms. Our drivers will, what I believe is going to be in a more professionalized uniform. We've already ordered those uniforms and received them. I think they're going to be very nice looking. We're waiting on a couple little extra things to come in, their name tags and belts to come in, and which should be in, I think, this week, Brad. And then we'll issue those uniforms out, and you'll see the drivers start using those uniforms. I believe it's just going to provide a more professional environment for our people and for our citizens to feel comfortable getting on our public transit system and know that the person that's on there is well presented and looks well when he's operating the bus. It's in terms of stuff going on, I can't go into a whole lot of detail other than to tell you we are currently working on a significant project for Bay County that will be a major project for us here in Bay County if we are the contractor chosen to provide the service. It will almost double what we currently do for Bay County in terms of ridership and in terms of equipment that we have to have. But we are not there yet. We're still in the beginning phases of that. But we just actually had a conference. That's why I was late coming in. I was on with them, and but we're hoping that will come to fruition and help us be part of the construction process with Tyndall Air Force Base. So we're excited about that opportunity. So
What about Margaritaville and airport service? How's that all looking?
Well, here's the thing. We're doing our COA. We're fixing to finalize our COA. And currently right now, we do not offer a service to that area. We do not have funding available to offer a service to that area. In terms of talking about a route, to provide a route, it's over $100,000 a year to provide a route. It's in the neighborhood of $14,000 to $17,000 per month for us to, by the time we pay our operator, preventative maintenance, fuel, all the things that go along with providing a route service. So, to be quite blunt, we do not have the funding available at this point to provide that. We have it in our 10-year plan to provide that. With this COA, what we're hoping to do is we're hoping to basically take the existing system as it is, make it as beneficial and as make it better, if you will. I'm trying to think of the right word, but just basically make it the best system it possibly can be with what we currently are offering, and then look at ways we can expand the system. And that is on the radar to provide service there to Margaritaville and also provide the airport service. We've reached out to the state DOT, the central office, and asked them for assistance in two areas. One, in providing assistance on implementing a designated transit lane along Front Beach Road. And then the other thing is to provide assistance with establishing our transit transfer station there at the Panama City Mall, which is going away once the flyover comes into effect. In that, we've actually been approached by District 3 about some autonomous type vehicles, use of autonomous type vehicles in certain areas. And so, you know, we've got a lot of things on our plate that we're looking at and looking at how that could best benefit our community. And, you know, whether it be providing some sort of service or shuttle from the airport back to Panama City Beach or Back Beach Road there at our bus stop there, or, you know, along Front Beach Road as part of the designated transit lane. So we're looking at a lot of different options right now and seeing how they can all kind of come together.
What do you envision if you could get a transit changeover point around 79 on the beach? In other words, you could get an electric vehicle that runs the circuit every 30 minutes from the airport, passes right by Margaritaville because it's going to be on 388, bam, right there. And it picks up folks and continues on down to 79, hits the beach at a transfer point right there, just straight down 79, dead end. Find a place that's convenient in there, and I'm sure there's a few places you could find to have people transition to our regular service that goes over to 79 and the beach, and then it continues right back up 79 again, heads to the airport, and just makes that circuit every 30 minutes. And you could probably do that every 30 minutes, and that would be huge. It'd be massive. Now, I do know one of our regular folks here that gets a lot of business from the county, and he also runs a taxi service. He'd be pretty upset with you doing that, but I think it would be huge. And, you know, an electric vehicle, heck, you could maybe get an autonomous one that would at least start from Margaritaville and run straight down 79 to, you know, that transfer point, and then turn around and go right back up. I don't know.
The hard part there is having that dedicated lane for that vehicle to run. And right now, it's even though they are doing it in some areas of the United States, having that vehicle operate within traffic, actual traffic, is still not quite mastered yet. And while a lot of them do have autonomous vehicles that do that, they also have somebody on the vehicle that can immediately take control of the vehicle in case they hit a detour or something like that. There's some new technologies that are emerging that we're becoming a part of as part of a project we call Smart Bay that's going to do some things to help make that a possibility here in Bay County, and also make it safer. But yes, that is where our mindset is on some things we could potentially do to benefit Margaritaville and also get people from the airport to Back Beach Road. That's kind of
awesome. Any other questions on the transit side for Lamont? All right, with that, is there anything on the legal side we need to be aware of? We understand that they accepted the Lloyd's of London insurance payout during the last meeting.
Yes.
For the Hurricane Michael damage.
No legal update today.
Okay. Our next meeting is going to be in October. Is that correct?
Yes, and even though we have to be determined it's October, we just don't know exactly what day in October.
Maybe the third.
Our usual day, we have conflicts, so we will send that out.
October
Any
when?
chance we can make it the third week of October? Yes.
I'm going to just say that we think it will be October the 6th.
October the 6th?
That should be the first Wednesday of October.
Yes, it is.
Okay. You'll let us know. We got a lot of time until then. I apologize for going over, but there was a lot to discuss. I think we have to adequate time before the TPO comes in. Any other business before the committee? With that, I'll ask for a motion.
Motion to dismiss.
Have a motion.
Second.
All in favor?